quicker than he thought because he's buying new construction out there and they bumped up his date 2 months. Real is telling him that he's going to have to be on, he's gonna have to be on a half cap there and a whole cap here. And that just doesn't seem right to me because I thought the whole point of joining Real and being in different states is to have a 12,000 cap. So I was just wondering if I could get a better understanding of that.
Yeah, so that's the first time, actually that's the second time in 2 days that I've heard that. So I think there's one person in support who must be sharing this information. And so let me do a little research because I have a note on my books to find out why. That doesn't seem right to me. Is he currently a $12,000 capper in
Yes.
California?
Yes.
And he's joining a team. How long has he been with Real?
Well, he joined after me, so not even a year. So I joined in December, and I want to say he probably joined February, March of this year.
Okay. I only asked that because I'm trying to figure out like what if there's a relation to anniversary years. And so let me get back to, I'll get back expressly to you guys, but I'll post the information in the Lions and Legends Facebook page when I get confirmation about it, because that doesn't seem right to me. Although I know there's something tricky about people trying to game the system when they are close to one cap, but no, they're not going to hit the other one. So it might be part of their safety net, but it's weird. There's 2 caps, 1 for each state. That doesn't seem right. So let me figure that out and then I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up because I'm happy. In some ways, I'm happy it's not just a single isolated case and just somebody's like misinformed. But if more than one person is saying this, then that means something's going on and either I don't know something or yeah, they have bad information. I'm going to go with the second, not the first, but that's just me.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Good question. Anybody else have any questions or concerns or anything you need help with? No. Okay, I'm going to do a quick shout out. I have this little handy dandy, where's my camera? Handy dandy book, Valentine. I have to. This is a big deal. So if you guys have not gotten your book, it's called Limitless Real Estate Strategies, Build Your Wealth and Join the Real Estate Revolution by Steve D. Valentine. So you can get it on Amazon and it gets drop shipped to your house pretty stinking quickly. He has a launch party tomorrow. So Steve, if you want to put your links in the chat, I totally welcome you to do that. I always want to celebrate the success of each of our people as we go and we grow. I think, part of being in a really healthy collaborative network is knowing that we can lean on each other and we can count on each other for things when they're tough, but we should also be able to celebrate. I think there's a lot to be said for celebrating each other's successes and coming alongside one another and learning from each other. So I think this really just feeds more into our collaborative network. And our whole point of being connected at Real is to kind of have that open source. And so here's an opportunity to celebrate Steve and his work. It's a labor of love. He spent a lot of effort, time, and energy and thought power. And that's why his beard is the color that it is now. It used to be, jet black, but now, he wrote a book. So now he looks wise. So anyway, I think you guys should take a look at it. It's something good. If you're looking to learn more about how he's done, this is a really great resource for you to have. I encourage you to get your highlighter out and make notes as you go, because there are some definite helpful things that are going to help you think a little differently and stretch your ability to earn and build wealth. And honestly, that's part of the appeal of coming to Real Broker is the fact that it's a wealth building platform. And so when you start to think about that, and now you're incorporating things into your life that start talking about wealth and how you can become wealthy and build a stronger legacy for you and your family, I think this is where we just start doing value adds, right? So congratulations, Steve. Really happy for you. Very excited for what you've done. And I hope you guys all enjoy reading it. I think it'll be good for your brains, good for your souls. And you'll know what resources you have in the people that you work with. If you look at your screen right now, you can see what are there 19 people on right now. These are all people that you work with in one fashion or another. We're connected, right? And so I just want to encourage you to get to know each other, take a screenshot so you know people's names so you can reach out to them If you don't have their contact info, then reach out to me and I can help you, or get into Workplace and send a private chat and connect that way. But I strongly encourage you guys to be connected, because I'm looking at the screen and I can see a mammoth wealth of resource just on those of you that are on my screen. So I think that's the big piece. Okay, so today I want to talk, first of all, I want to congratulate you for coming, because I know I posted what the topic would be. And sometimes I think that scares people away. And so I'm really thankful that more than just me is on my screen right now. I'm super grateful for that. I'm glad you're here. I want this to be interactive. I want you to feel like you can ask questions. And in fact, if you know me very well, you know that my happiest place is where you are interacting. So, but I'm not the kind of interactor that says, put something in the chat, because I can't see the chat the way I have my screen set up. So it doesn't do me any good. But if you want to put things in the chat, knock yourself out. If you want to say them out loud, terrific, because I'll actually see and hear them if you do that. We're going to talk today about, how attractive are you? And not on the beauty scale like we've been talking about Angelia's hair today, but that scores a 10. But I want to talk about, how we're living our life to attract people into our life. So this is not just about building your network or downline, so to speak, at Real. This is about attracting the right kind of people into your life. And if you are a team lead, you want to attract the right people to your team. If you are a solopreneur, you want to attract the right kind of clients, right? You want to attract the right kind of friends and business associates. So I want to just start with some rudimentary things about relationships today. Let me get there we go. I can see what time it is. Because I really feel, I feel like there's something that's missing in our culture as a society, not necessarily our company, but I think as a society, I think we have had a great reminder with the pandemic that taught us the value of people and about the value of being connected face to face with people, how important that is. So can any of you either testify to that or want to share a quick example of coming out of post-pandemic stuff? Like, how happy were you to be free and connected with people? And what did that do to change what your lifestyle looked like? Because we had kind of a hampered lifestyle, some of us, for a couple of years. So what was it like to break free, and how powerful was that for you? Come on. All of you I know are not like toadstools sitting in the dark.
All right, I'll go. Good. I mean, so my wife and I and daughter hit the road during COVID, did what a lot of people dreamed of doing and others did, which was we bought an Airstream and, hit the road. And, we had a blast, but it was, we were still shut off. I mean, you had the community in each place, right? We stayed anywhere there was water. So we stayed on the Mississippi River, the Gulf of Texas. We stayed, you name it, the ocean. And it was fun, but you had this community. But getting back to Arizona and back in a room with all my real estate friends or my mortgage friends was just a huge change. And what we realized is just how much we miss that connection, even if it was, just having dinner with our family more frequently again, or if it was just getting friends together. And so I think, probably you're a lot like me and had that same feeling. And now I see it when I go to big mortgage events where all of a sudden there's people there, still not as many as we used to have, but when you're there, the people who are there are just even that much tighter.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anybody else?
I think for me, it was a weaning period, not just for me, but for people. That not everybody came out and said, you know what, now we're ready to hug and see people. So we had to deal with the fact that not everybody was ready to adapt to that at the same time frame and in the same way.
Yeah, it's true, huh? Everybody had their own thoughts around all of that and how to reintegrate. Are there any downsides you guys think post-pandemic and coming back out into the free world, I'll just say? Do you think there's any downside to these events and being reconnected with people like you were pre-pandemic?
I think a big thing that happened, and I witnessed it firsthand, and I'm still witnessing it firsthand, is that some people became so secluded, and then anxiety came from that realization of coming back out into public and watching people still adapt with that. And it's still prevalent. It absolutely is still prevalent out there. And you
So
have to
then
be aware of it.
doesn't that say to us that we are actually beings who are impacted by environment? Right? Like there's things, if we look back, if go back to your life 5 years ago and what were you doing? And I mean, I don't know, if I asked you, some of you will know where you were when Kennedy was shot, or where you were when the Challenger blew up, or where you were when the pandemic started, right? Or when you've heard, or when Desert Storm hit. Like those are days in our lives that are marked, right? Is that fair? Maybe not all of us are old enough to remember some of those things I mentioned, but I know that they're markers in history, right? I'm not there for some of them. But some of them I remember very clearly. I remember sitting in my office, the company that I worked with was very interested in what was happening with NASA. And so they had screens everywhere and we watched the Challenger. I'll never, ever, ever, ever forget that, right? That was a day that was marked. I remember when Michael Jackson died, not because I thought, he is actually the king of everything, but he was an icon with incredible talent. I just remember that feeling that I had. So do you have like the feeling of understanding that, oh my gosh, there's this crazy pandemic? Like, do you have that moment of going, oh, that was February of 2020? I remember when that stuff, like the beginning of March into February and all the confusion, right? So we just remember these things. And now we're on the backside. And so we can look at ourselves and go, okay, all of the relationships that we had 5 years ago, what's the status of those same relationships today? Out of curiosity, have you had an attrition? Have you added more people? Like, where are you if we were going to stack up relationship equity?
Well, I can answer, but I don't think I'm the norm.
You never are. That's so good.
So I think that I value those relationships more than I did before, because I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I went crazy during the pandemic, and just, not crazy like I literally needed to go to a mental institution, but I need that social interaction so badly that, I was over creating. I was doing everything. Okay, I'm the expert of all the things that I can do now that aren't really what I do. And just kind of killed myself in my own little space, just doing everything to try to find that reaction or interaction with people. So for me, I value those relationships more than I did before because I realize how much I need them.
Yeah. Did any of you have a thinning, like people that you were in relationship before, and then now that might be a more concentrated group of people, or maybe you've expanded your group? Where are you in that?
I feel like during that time, it was such a weird time for people, and it brought out different sides of people that you wouldn't have known about. And I did feel like it did divide us a little bit. And so I think that people lost the value of giving other people grace because it became such a distinguished divide in my eyes. So I think that there's a little bit of both. There was the divide created like some things that I didn't enjoy of people, but then because we're so out of touch that when we reconnected, there was that like, oh my gosh, you're there. So it kind of just depended on the situation.
I think it was, if nothing else, I think it was an amazing social experiment, right? For us to really look at and in the guise of, our relationships with people, how much people really mattered to us, how much we understood that they mattered to us, and how much it was so important to stay connected to maybe some, but not all. And so I think there's a lot of relationship defining that was happening during the pandemic. And then I think post-pandemic, it's been very interesting to watch those relationships that were kind of fortified through that isolation period, right? And watch those start to flourish. And then some that were maybe not so fortified. And now we have a different appreciation for them because we got to know them in a concentrated way, right? I don't know if you guys ever watch, oh gosh, what's that series on Netflix? Love is Blind or something, Love at First Sight, Marriage at First Sight, something like that. It's basically, I've watched a few episodes, it's hilarious for one thing, but it's great science when you're talking about relationships, because what it does is they're not allowed to see each other, and they all date in these pods where you can't see each other, but you can hear each other. So you just talk to each other. And I think it's such a great social experiment also. So if you're just curious about human behavior, that is very interesting to watch. But I think that's a lot of what happened in our pandemic time. Now we're post-pandemic, and we are trying to navigate this a little bit. Like you said, Jaylene, there's a lot of people who were really impacted, and now there's a different kind of impact on them in relationships. And Susan talked about it too, like where you're just not, people are slower to engage. And so I think, it's interesting when I think about relationships and the value. For me, I have always said the deal matters, but the people matter more. That was my slogan for my team when I had a big real estate team. And that's just kind of been one of my life, mantras, right? Other things matter, but people matter more than that. And so if that's true, then I probably need to edit that. And it's like, these things matter, but the right relationships and the right people matter more. Because what I also have discovered is that sometimes we do all these things for the wrong people, right? We spend all our time, effort, energy investing in someone who's not going to reciprocate, who is just a taker and not a giver, who is concerned with themselves versus the whole, right? And so sometimes I think we have to have some good judgment around who we're investing our time, effort, energy, and resources in. So that brings me to this place of, let's just talk for a minute about what do you guys think are the traits of valuable relationships? And I'm just gonna write them down so we just kind of get a little bit of a visual, but what do you think are the top traits that are important in healthy relationships?
I think it's definitely got to be good two-way communication.
Excellent.
Trust.
I was gonna say honesty.
Respect.
Trust, respect. Yeah, keep going.
Integrity.
Kindness.
Yeah, that's good.
Grace,
Awesome.
Patience.
Oh, dang it.
being open and objective,
Good.
Reciprocation.
Are you just testing my spelling skills today, huh?
Have we said loyalty?
Loyalty's good.
selflessness,
Say again.
being selfless and thoughtful,
It's good.
Compromise.
Compromise. There we go.
Influence.
What do you mean?
You know how they say like the people that you surround yourself with, like the 5 people that you spend the most time with are the people that you become. So, having influence, and that could be positive or negative, but having the people that are in your life that are hopefully positive influences, but influence is important, I think, in a relationship.
Yeah. I think it's good to be aware of influence, right? Whether they're a good influence or bad influence, right? I think that's really smart. That's good. Anything else? You know what I don't see? Commitment. What about, what does it take in a relationship? And I don't just mean like a romantic relationship. I mean friendships and business relationships, all of these things, right? Just in general. Another thing that I wrote down was safety. If you do ability or the availability, let's just spell it right. To be vulnerable, right? That you can be safe in your vulnerabilities. What else? Anything else?
What about fun?
There we go. Fun and laughter. That was one of my other ones. Really
hey
important.
bud,
Has anyone ever
matters.
heard of the fish philosophy?
The what?
The fish philosophy?
Hit me. What is
Choose
it?
your attitude, be there, have fun, make their day.
Oh, I like that.
Choose your attitude, have fun,
Be
Be
there
be
and
there,
make their day.
and make their day.
It's literally the
Nice.
fun. It's a fish philosophy. Look it up. It's
There
my
you go.
dating
I'm gonna-
builder
yeah.
bear.
That's so awesome. All right, so the reason I wanted to do this is because I think these are things that happen two ways, right? These are things that we expect from a relationship. And some of them are non-negotiable. So when we look at these things, let's just talk about the ones in your life. If you had to pick the top one that's a non-negotiable, what is it?
Trust.
I got one for trust.
Integrity.
Respect.
Communication.
I like commitment.
Okay, that's 5 of you.
I want to be fun.
Fun.
I was gonna join in on the
Loyalty.
fun one too, Steve. I'm with
Okay,
fun.
another one for fun and another one for loyalty. Is that what I heard? Where did it go? There it is.
Yes.
Thanks.
I love spontaneity too. I got to throw that out there.
Spontaneity.
Yeah.
That's not even a word.
Yeah. Well. Spell it. Can you spell it?
Spontaneity. Yep, I'm just gonna create it up. There we go.
I like
Okay,
kindness
one sec.
too.
Kindness. All right. So far, fun is winning. We care more about having a good time than if you're gonna tell the truth. Or if you're gonna be around for a while.
But all those other
Okay.
things fall into place, trust me. But you at least do it with the fun mindset.
There you go. I
Because real
like it.
estate is fun.
It is totally fun. So I did this because I wanted to bring out some of the character traits that we think are important. When we talk about like how we're going to draw people in to be in relationship, the right people in, because I think there's a lot to be said for spending time. I mean, I think Danielle said it, there's something about influence, right? And know what influence people have on you. And I think being honest about what influence you have on other people. So how many of you consider yourself influential in the people in your circle? You can just raise your hand or shout out, either way. Yeah. So how many of you that raised your hand feel like you are also influenced by other people? Yeah. So do you see how there's this two-way street? And so what if you are in relationship with people who are not a positive influence on you? What happens in that relationship?
They fall away. You don't spend the time with them.
Right? But if you stayed spending time with them and they're not a good influence on you, what happens to you?
You would become like them.
Yeah. What happens to your mindset?
Brings you down.
Yeah. Right. And so this is why I want to talk about like the value of building really healthy relationships, building relationships that matter. Because if we're looking at we have a finite amount of time. Do we agree on that? That there are 24 hours in a day, there are 60 minutes in an hour, there are 60 seconds in a minute, right? So if you start thinking about how you spend your time and where you spend your time, are you going to intentionally spend it with people who are going to change the mindset and distract you from your focus, who are going to be speaking negatively to you, and causing you then to start speaking and thinking negatively? If you know your time is finite, is that where you're going to invest? Okay, everybody should do this, like shoulder to shoulder, chin to shoulder. Like you should say no, because the reason that you're not going to is because time is finite. It's this great little circle. So let's just talk about when we do that. How do we, if you have negative people in your life, how do you discharge them and still operate in grace and patience, integrity, kindness, and loyalty and respect? How do you move them along in your life? What does that look like?
I think you start making choices to distance. And you also have to realize, I've been having a lot of this conversation with my kids, is that relationships are meant to be seasonal. right? So there's going to be people that move on. There's things that happen in life, and it's not that you have to just discard them and have negative conversations, but it's a choice to not spend the time with them. If they're reaching out, hey, want to go have a beer, or want to go have a bitch session or a gossip session, you start to realize, like, every time you walk away from that person and you feel dirty and you feel heavy, it's time to start distancing those conversations and not allowing for it. Because the more you allow that in your life, it's very similar to all of our attitudes towards, like, we have a choice to work with a seller, right? And so we're interviewing that seller as much as they're interviewing us as to whether or not we're going to allow somebody with a negative attitude or poor business choices, like, waste all of our positive energy towards chasing that bad energy for that paycheck. And same thing with our friend circle and our influences is like, who do I want to be around? Somebody that's pulling me up or hanging onto my ankles. So if you look at a ladder, right, you have somebody above you that is reaching down and pulling you up. And then some of us have people that are holding onto our ankles trying to drag us down. And eventually we kind of have to kick that off and keep moving up. But there's
It's the
some
crabs
friends
in the bucket, right?
Right. So the ladder should look like this. It should look like somebody below you pushing on your feet to help you up and somebody above you helping pull you up so that we can all continue up that ladder.
Yeah, and I think, you said relationships are seasonal, and I think that's interesting when you look at the term commitment, right? So a non-committed relationship, I don't believe is seasonal. Maybe it's for the whole season of your life. So I'll give you that part. But I do think that there are relationships in our life that are intended to be seasonal, right? So if you think about, if I think about people that I met in my early 20s, and what I needed from the people in my 20s is totally different than what I needed from the people that were in my 40s, right? The contribution level, it doesn't mean anything was wrong with the 20s people or me for that matter. That might be debatable, but that input that's coming, right, is different than what I need. And so you're going to find people who are good for you in the different stages of your own personal growth and development. And so doesn't mean that you shun them, right? You can still love on these people, but there is something to be said about distancing. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it's like, Brandon Hare's on this call. He's finishing his license and he's going to be at Real with me. Brandon and I have been friends and worked together off and on for 25 years. He worked for my dad 25 years ago. And we've been off and on seasonally. There were times that we distanced, and there was times that as one of our lives changed, we came back into each other's lives. So I think that there's sometimes that person is distanced and then they come back based on a change or something that's going on in their life. And so you do have those relationships where there are seasons of our lives where our lives have changed, but it doesn't mean, and the relationship might change, but it doesn't mean you can't come back together when somebody is needing something or looking for something different. And that's, Brandon and I keep coming back together, in this real estate world over time. But there's been times in our lives where things have changed, but it was never a discarding of that friendship.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. So in the process of that and looking at how we're building relationships, I'm going to go back to that question of how do we get rid of or eliminate or reduce, whatever your mode is going to be, those that are not building you and not giving you that encouragement and that connectivity. Go ahead. You just do?
I just do. I'm 52 years old, and I don't know how much I agree with the total commitment on the relationship side, because I feel that it needs to be two-sided. But I hit a point in my life where, people change over the years. People grow either in a better direction or sometimes in a not better direction. But I've just hit a point in my life where I will not allow negativity. I will not allow toxic people. I will not allow people that don't make me a better person. And it's very easy for me, maybe because I'm a high DC, I don't know, to just, if you're not bringing value to my life, then I don't want you in it. Time is very short. For me, 2020 was life changing for me. My 30-year marriage ended. And my direction of my life is completely different because of that. And time is short, and you either you have a limited amount of time in every single day, and you either bring in people with value or you don't. So
Yeah.
I don't talk to my own brother because he's a very angry person from what happened in our childhood, and I don't need people yelling or mean or, and there's friends that I've let go just because of jealousy or toxicity or like whatever, that's just, I don't think you need to just be done.
No, I don't disagree. I think there are, I think for our own mental health, there's lots of times where we need to say, hey, listen, these people are not good for me. And there is a hardcore cut, no question. That's absolutely. And you made a really good point, Laura. It's a commitment that's two-sided. It's not just like I'm committed to the relationship, because I could be committed to somebody who's very toxic for me, right? It has to be something, and that serves, it serves the toxicity purpose, right? But figuring out how these people are toxic in our lives and what part of you, and Steve said it right. When you walk away and you're not lifted up and you're not jazzed and you can't wait to see them again, if you don't have those feelings from relationships that you're with, those are the people you need to think about, like how much time I need to be spending or not spending with them. Not because they are a really good friend and had an honest conversation and you didn't like the conversation, that's not the same thing. But when somebody is sucking the life from you, there's something that I learned a long time ago, and I use it frequently when I start to feel like, okay, this is getting to be a weird, I don't get it. And a lot of times when they talk to me or want to share something with them, the one question I ask is, are you venting or are you actually looking for advice? Because the answer to that will tell you more about not the immediate situation, but it will tell you more about their overall mindset. And that helps you identify people. If they're like, oh, I want advice. Okay, are you going to take the advice? Because my time's limited and I can brainstorm 15 things for you to help solve, but are you going to put any action behind it? And if the answer in their actions or in their words is no, that's a good idea for you to start really evaluating. That's a flag, right, to go up. And so when we start really looking at like how to build, it does start with us. Like how, Laura, you said it. I don't allow that in my life. Great. So the first thing when we're really looking at, relationships that matter are boundaries. And we don't do everything for everybody just because we can. I have another mantra that says, just because I can doesn't mean I should. And that takes me back to, I want to look at the value of my time and of the people. Listen, there's a lot of people in my life I really love, and I really want to spend time with them. So if I'm spending time with these people who are sucking my life away and don't care about anything about me, then I need to sever. And I'll give you a good example. When I first got my license, I met this other realtor, super, super nice lady, super nice lady. We got along great, and I really, really liked her. And she got her license about the same time I did. So we were both kind of newbies, and we just kind of bounce ideas off one another. But I started to recognize a pattern. We would get on the phone or we would see each other, and she never once would say, how are things with you? Or if she said or if I tried to interject something, it always circled back to her. And so, you know what, this was a very one-sided, I was feeding her ego I was in relationship with her, and I was listening to all her junk and I was like, you know what, I'm out. I literally just didn't answer the phone, let her leave messages. I would text back. There are ways to gracefully do it without just being a hardcore snot about it. You can send the message without being, awful, because their bad behavior doesn't dictate my behavior. So just because somebody's ugly to me, I'm not going to be ugly back, but I'm going to create a pattern where it's just not convenient for you. I'm not easy to be connected to. You're going to leave a message. I might return it 2 days later, right? You're going to get these subtle messages. I still believe in open and honest communication. Hey, listen, I don't think this is a healthy relationship, but if you're dealing with someone who's toxic, they're not hearing that anyway, right? That's not what their MO is about. So you're wasting your breath and you're causing more emotional distress on yourself to try to handle something like that. So for me, I'm like, I don't not care about her. I still care about her. She still matters to me, but she doesn't matter enough to me in my life that I'm going to sacrifice time with the other people that mean something and are more valuable, because I want relationships. Somebody said it earlier, that are reciprocal, right? Reciprocation. We want that give and take. We want to know that when things get tough, I can actually lean on someone and trust them, and that it's okay for me to be safe and vulnerable with them because they actually do care about me, because they know in return, we have enough trust and respect, first trust and respect, that we've been able to care about each other. Your secrets are safe with me. I'm a vault. I don't talk to other people. You know why? The minute that I start talking to everybody about everything that I know, I don't have any friends, right? Think about it. It's a bad idea, right? But I am also empathetic enough that I can feel things for people. I can help them if I can help them, right? If not, sometimes I just need to be the listener for my friend. So sometimes I think building these relationships and knowing what we're allowing in is also the same exact thing that we need to be putting out. Because when we're leading with how we believe, right? This belief system behind me, when we're leading with these things are all evident in our lives. Those are the people who are attracted to us. However, there are also people who don't have any of these things who are attracted to us because they're so hungry, they're starved, and they don't have any of these things. So how do you determine which people you're going to, as you said, Steve, which on the ladder, which people are you going to allow to hang on to your ankles that are going to push you up, and which people are pulling you up? And how do you make that differentiation? Because I think when we're looking at relationships that matter, we have to know what that definition looks like. Go ahead.
Well, I think it's really important. And again, you can put it in the real estate terms, but I think that I want to add on to what Laura was saying was that, yes, I don't want people that don't add value, but I also think we have a responsibility to give people a chance to add value to their life and see if they're going to grow or they're going to listen and they're going to come alongside you, versus the people where you pour into and you don't see them do anything. And we've all done it in our real estate businesses, right? How many of us have poured into an agent that is just not willing to do the work? And at some point in time, just like, okay, I'm out on this. Like, if you're not going to do the work and do all the things that I've given you and showed you and taught you, I can't add anything else to it. And I need to distance or get rid of that. I need to fire that person and move on. So I do think that, there's a time where we all want to improve people, but we can't have hero syndrome either. We can't save everybody. It was one of the things that I watched my dad do for a long time. He was trying to save the entire world, and it fed his ego, but it also took a lot of his time, right?
But it starved him of everything else, right?
Correct. Well, it took away from the value add to other relationships that would have been not just more beneficial, but I mean, beneficial in a lot of different ways, whether it brought more business in or whether they helped encourage him, those types of things. So I do believe that, we want to spend time with those people that are willing to listen and grow, and you can see those improvements. But at some point in time, you have to not kick them to the side, but you got to kick them off your ankles. But if they're down there asking you to, reach down with your hand to help pull them up, and you're seeing them making the effort, I think that's where the relationship is worth the effort until it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can't want it more than somebody else, right? That's what I used to tell my agents all the time. I can't want this more than you.
Yep.
I just, I can do it for myself, but the idea is that you should learn. I think that that's important. I think when we look at like how we're attracting people into our life and what we're looking for, I think there's some things that each individual person needs to do. I think you need to do this for yourself to figure out what's super important to you about this. Because here's the thing, even though there is this scenario when we're talking about hiring people, of hire somebody just like me. So what we want is somebody who has similar values as what we have, but not necessarily the same skills. Do you follow the difference between what that means?
100%.
Yeah, right. It's a big difference. And I think we don't always look at it like that. And so I think let's find people who are our people. These are our tribe. These are the people who believe like we believe. These are the people who have kind of the same moral base as what you have, the same priority in these traits, right? When you find that person, that's worth a discussion to find out what their skills are. Because now we know that we're like-minded, as in likely we have a very similar mindset around what the outcome should be. The outcome of goodness, the outcome of success, survival, whatever you're aiming for, we know that we will intellectually be and emotionally very likely be on the same path towards the same target. What we need is people on that path with us who can, when we hit the divots and the potholes in the road, they're the people who can fill them, right? And so now you're looking at the difference between traits, who you are, and what you do, your skills. And so I think when you're starting to look at that, I think the very first thing is to make sure that you are like-minded with people. Not that everybody is a yes man or yes woman to you, not that they agree with you, but that they in principle have these traits that you have defined are very important to you, because this is what's going to make your team, your organization, your group, whatever you're doing, your household, your friendship, this is going to be the piece that makes you cohesive, right? Because if we don't, if I have, for instance, if I have Brian, and Brian doesn't think that respect matters at all, and integrity, sorry, Brian, this is kind of a poor show of who you are. But if respect and integrity don't mean anything to him, and they're number one and number two for me, but I really like him, super nice guy, and he has a skill set that is stellar for what I need. Are we a good fit? No, because he's not going to respect anything I say. He's not going to respect the other team members. He's not going to have any integrity. So he's going to get the job done whatever it takes, regardless of fallout. That's really terrible, Brian. I'm sorry. I should have picked a fictitious person. I love Brian a lot. But can you see how he has the skill that I need, but he's not in alignment with all the other traits that are a priority to me? Not a good fit. And so when we're trying to build relationships with people, we want to make sure that the way that we're speaking matches the way that we're living. Because if we speak about these things are important, but I hire Brian because he has the skill that I need, but I was willing to sacrifice these two traits, we're not in alignment. We're not parallel anymore. And so when you start looking at like your team, your household, your personal friendships, your neighbors, whatever, right? You can see where you are in alignment and when you are out of alignment. And so as a leader, because I asked all of you who talked about influence this morning, how many of you are influencers and how many of you are influenced by? And it was a similar raising of hands, right? Like we are influenced by people, and we are influencing. So if we are out of alignment, no longer are we sitting parallel with our skill set, our actions, and our belief system, right? They're not, if those are out of sync, you're not ever going forward. Like you can keep pushing forward, but there's collision. So look back in your life and look at relationships, either work or personal, where you go, oh, I can see how the real root of what went wrong in that relationship was these things were out of sync with what we were saying we believed, right? I mean, they intersect and it's just collision after collision, and you start to see that. So I want to encourage you guys, I know we're getting close on time here, but I want to really encourage you that the more you start building these relationships with people, when you're talking about bringing them to your team, if you're doing attraction for real, if you are getting in relationship with people as clients, customers, whatever terms you want to use, really the responsibility of the power of the relationship rests in you. You actually dictate how things are going to go forward by what you do over here with setting your boundaries, knowing what they are, right? Laura has a hardcore. If you're toxic, you're out. And actually, if you're toxic, you're not even in, right? She's got a radar that says, I'm looking for that because that is an unacceptable. It's out of alignment with where I am here. And the more you get in alignment with the things you believe, which is why I'm going to ask you to do this, spend 5 minutes just by yourself thinking, okay, what are the most important pieces of relationships to me? Because when you do that, then you're going to be able to take that and hold that up against all the relationships that you have and see which ones are in alignment, which ones are parallel, and which ones are headed for a collision. And when you do that, it's going to give you this great view of how you should manage the relationship. And so when you understand that about yourself, then you start controlling, and not in a crazy controller mindset way, but you start having an influence on your own environment. And when you're starting to surround yourself with people who you admire, who live a life in parallel, right? It might not be at the same speed that you go. They might be in a different place in the growth journey than you, but those people still have a place in your life if we're talking about being parallel. And so as you're looking to grow your team or build a team or start a team or build your network, then what you're really trying to do is get yourself into relationships that matter. The sales cycle for agents, if I can just move really quickly to the real piece of this, the attraction side of it, the sales cycle for an agent, because let's be honest, this is a sales process, right? To get them to move from one brokerage to another is seldom a phone call that says, hey, Kim, I've been watching everything you're doing. I'd like to move my license today. That hardly ever happens. It'd be so great if it did, because that'd be awesome, but it doesn't happen that way. But what happens is we have this lifeline of relationship. And here's what I think that makes you have a sustainable downline is you're in relationship with these people before they come, and you maintain that relationship when they're here, because now you're actually building a relationship that matters. You're building because you're helping them change their financial future. You're helping them with their business. You're caring about them as a person. When all of those things come through, then that relationship is gelled. And the truth of the matter is there's a lot of people I have solid relationships with who are going to stay forever at their brokerage. I know that. But that doesn't make me go, okay, well, then no longer are you valuable to me because you're not, I don't see you as the dollar sign. That's not it at all. It's, listen, I want to be in business with people that I have relationships that matter with. I was just talking to Lisa Ball the other day. Some of you guys know who she is. And she and I have been connected, I want to say since like 2000, maybe 5 or 6. And we finally are working together. We've wanted to work together for a long time. Timing hasn't worked out. Things have shifted and changed. It was like, it took a long time, but it's because the relationship has been long and solid and we have a trust relationship. So when I talked to her about Real, it was like, oh my gosh, this is probably the right thing for me to do. Okay, well, you need to think about it, right? You need to figure that out. And so when you start to realize the value of these relationships, and every relationship that you're in, listen, don't bring people to the company that you believe are toxic just because you see a dollar sign connected to them. Because let me tell you something, that dollar sign is not big enough for the toxicity that that person's going to bring back into your life. So make good choices around the people that are in your life. The boundaries that you have for your personal relationships personally, those should be the same boundaries you have for your relationships with people on a professional level. You shouldn't have 2 sets of standards for who I am personally and who I am professionally, because that tells me that these things are out of alignment and that you are spending a lot of time trying really hard to be somebody you're not, either over here or over here. And so if I could just kind of encourage you guys to take a deep look about who you are and what you want to be connected with, and then pursue people like that. You know, Steve's example of somebody's hanging on to my ankles and somebody else, I'm hanging on to theirs, right? Like, this is how we build and grow together. Nobody gets left behind. Nobody's lost. Maybe not everybody's a perfect fit, but we can all learn things from each other. But when we allow that negative behavior to dictate us, or if we allow that toxicity to start permeating our thinking, that starts to mess up a lot of things. And relationships that we were in alignment quickly start to skew, right? When our mindset changes and when our attitudes change and our voice, our words change and our processes change. So I just want to really encourage you guys to think about, are you somebody who's worthy of being in a relationship with it? Are you the kind of person you want to be in relationship with? Because whoever you are is who's attracted to you. And so it really, the root of it starts at home with each one of us. Who am I? I need to watch my attitude. I need to watch my words. I need to make sure my words are in alignment with my actions. And this isn't an act, but this is just personal accountability, right? Sometimes I'm off the charts, right? And I need to have a good friend who says, hey, gosh, this is happening. Maybe you want to consider thinking about it like this. Hard conversations are built for strong relationships. And if you can't have the hard conversations, or you interpret them as offensive, right? Then I'm going to challenge you to go back and say, okay, why are you so offended? why did that hurt your feelings so bad? Because it was true and you don't really like that about yourself? Or were they really off base and it came from some other hurt somewhere else? We have a lot of responsibility in relationships. And I think it counts, you know, in my personal relationship with my husband, it counts with my kids, it counts with my neighbors, it counts with my friends, it counts with people I work with, it counts with people that I lead, it counts with people that I coach, it counts with people that coach me. Like, there's a lot that goes on. And I go back to this, we have a very finite amount of time, right? So when we understand the value of our time, then we need to just quickly correspond the value of how we're spending that time in terms of who are the people that are taking the most time in our life, and are they helping you, and are they encouraging you, and are you doing the same for them? Are you on that reciprocation level with them? So that's, I mean, we're right up on 5 till. I want to leave you with that, but I really want to encourage you guys. I'm encouraged, like when I see this screen, I love each one of these faces on here, and I'm so thankful for you and for the people you are in my life and for hanging out. That big one, I like that. It got really big, but yeah, I appreciate each one of you. I love what you stand for. I'm happy to be in relationship with you. And I think you should be able to look around and have that same vibe. So I'm going to give you just a second to take screenshots of the screen. And if you need to scan left or right, because they don't all fit on your screen, I want you to scan them. And I want you to just, you know, pick a couple of people that you can reach out to this week to just get acquainted. I mean, maybe you're a great fit, maybe you aren't, but at least you will know and you can enhance. I'm going to say that everybody on this call is probably connected with more of these than not, would be my guess. All right. Next week, I believe, I don't remember if it's Reagan Nicholson teaching or if it's Tony Caliendo, but I promise you it will be one of them. And I will look forward to seeing your lovely faces next Monday. Have a super great week, you guys. Appreciate you.
Happy Father's Day.
Oh yeah, that's coming up.
All
Yeah.
those fathers. Milk
You
it,
big
man.
daddies. Well, and here's the thing, most of you have one if you're not one. So cheers to that.
Yeah. Take full advantage.
That's right. Yeah, because
Thank you,
every
Kim.
day is
Great
Father's
stuff.
Day at my house, for Pete's sake. So don't get me started, bud. Bye, you guys. Have a great week.
Thanks, Kim.
Bye.
Thank you, Kim.